item is public comment. If anyone is here that would like to speak to the board about any election-related issues not pertaining to our cases that we have on the agenda, when we call each one of those cases, we'll give you an opportunity to speak at that time, so you don't have to feel like you need to get up now and talk to us about a specific case. We'll give you an opportunity to do that as we move through the agenda. But if there are other issues that anyone would like to speak to us about, we'll give you 2 minutes to do that. You do need to fill out a comment card. Where's mine? Right over there. Do we have any comments?
Yeah, they're set up right at the table when you walk in.
We got the cards on the table. If anybody's interested in that, have we got anybody yet? No. Okay. If anybody's interested, I'll give you just a few more minutes to fill that out. The other thing I just wanted to explain real quick, and first of all, welcome you all here to this board meeting. This is a probable, we'll be having these hearings which are probable cause, and we're just going to give everybody an opportunity on all sides to speak to these issues as we move through the agenda, so don't worry about that. We'll give you ample time for that. The individuals that have signed this sheet right here, do you all want to address us for the 2 minutes, or are you here on specific cases?
Specific case.
Okay.
Specific case.
Okay, very good. All right. I don't believe we have any public comments today, so we'll move on to the approval of our minutes, which is under tab 1 and 2. And if the board would like to give me a motion, or if there are any changes to the 2 sets of minutes we got, the first one being from our board meeting on October the 7th. I'll take the motion for that.
I move that we approve the minutes of the board meeting on October 7th.
Second.
Mr. Worley moves and Ms. Sullivan seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. And now we have the minutes from our board meeting on October the 20th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of our meeting on October 20th.
Second.
All right, Mr. Worley moves again, and Ms. Sullivan seconds again. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and that motion is carried as well. We will now move on to our what we call our consent cases, and for those of you that haven't been with us at a state election board meeting before, our consent cases are basically cases that we have investigated. The recommendation has been to dismiss all of these cases. We've got a very long list on the agenda. They go through number 3 in our binder through number 34. Our protocol in doing this is that if there's anyone here that might disagree with us dismissing these cases, or would like to make a comment on the cases in any regard, if you're here in the audience, we will pull off individual cases if somebody does want to hear these. So at this time, I would ask anybody that's here this morning, if there's anybody that wants to pull one of these cases out in the audience with us today, please just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, sir.
Sean Tucker, it's for the Blue Lacey petition validation. I think it's line item number 12.
That'll be Long County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see, who else do we have? Yes, sir.
Item number 21, Clayton County Primary 2014.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Secretary, I would request that the Paulding County case that's on the consent agenda actually be moved to the letter case. There is a violation there. I've confirmed with Paulding County that they're okay with that.
All right, Mr. Harvey, number 29 we removed from the agenda, is that correct? I may have an old agenda. Is that Douglas County case?
The Douglas County case is removed. The agenda I'm looking at has it. I believe it's removed already.
Okay, that's good. I just kept my old one because I had notes on it. Okay, anyone else wishing to remove one of these cases?
Secretary, I wanted to talk about, or I had a few questions about item number 17, the City of Atlanta case.
All right, we'll move 2013 number 68. We'll move it to discuss. Any other members have a case that they would like to remove? All right, last call for anybody wanting to remove our consent cases. Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve the consent, or to dismiss the consent cases that is on our agenda, excluding SEB case number 2013, number 23, which is a Long County, number 12 in our binder, SEB case number 2013-68, which is the City of Atlanta, number 17 in our binder, SEB case number 2014-17, which is a Clayton County primary case number 21 in our binder. We have moved SEB case number 2014, number 23, which is number 22 in our binder, to the letter cases, and that was it.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan moves for the dismissal.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Simpson beat Mr. Worley to the punch on that one for the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And that motion carries, and we have dispensed with the cases as described. Mr. Harvey, I'll go ahead and call the, do you want to go ahead and go through these first before we move on to the letter cases?
Yes, sir. I think that would
Okay.
be easiest.
All right, we'll go ahead. I'll call SEB case number 2013, number 23, which is a Long County case. That's number 12 in our binder. Mr. Harvey.
Yes, sir. Mr. Secretary, members of the board, this case involved a filing of petitions for an alcohol referendum in the city of Luttawissee. The complaint was filed by Mr. Sean Tucker. He reported that he turned in petitions to call for an election for alcohol sales. Our investigation revealed two major issues. One issue was that the petitions that were submitted by Mr. Tucker were insufficient and that they did not have the requisite information regarding circulators and documentation about that. And secondly, that the issue of the alcohol referendum, we determined is not something that the state election board would have jurisdiction over. I believe that's a separate title in the Georgia code regarding alcohol referendum. But regardless of that, the petitions that he turned in were insufficient and they were rejected. So we found no violation and recommend this case be dismissed.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Harvey from the board? Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Yes, sir. If you will, when you come up to the microphone, these mics down here in Macon are not the greatest in the world, so please speak very clearly. And when you start, if you would just give us your full name and your address, just so we can have that for our record and our transcripts.
Yes, sir. My name is Sean Tucker. I'm a resident of Luttawissee, Georgia. I am the owner of a beer and wine store called the Brown Bagger. The reason why I brought issue with this is I submitted documentation. I requested from my county registered voting list. If they refused me my first go around, they wouldn't provide that information to me. So I went to the state and paid, I think it was $80 to receive some CDs. They would have the voter registration lists on there so that I could go and obtain these signatures that they were requiring me, 35% of the city registered voters, not to include the county. I did that when I came back to these, and I have newspaper articles as reference to this. When I brought those back, I was accused of forging signatures I was told that I had not provided enough information on there. I got birth date, signature of the person, and where they resided, whether it was city or county. When I went back the second time to request to do a petition again, if this was the improper information, I had requested from them to provide me with what the city had as registered voters, which is supposed to be public information, which, again, they made it very hard for me to get a hold of. They would piecemeal this to me. We had an election process that was getting ready to come up for city council board, and I submitted my petition to them for it to be counted, and I don't have the actual regulation, but it's supposed to be counted within a 30-day period, and responded back to me with that letter. It was 6 months later, past the election process, that this should have been placed onto the ballot. Not only that, but they only accounted for 257 signatures out of the 800 signatures I had provided to them. Not saying that those all were registered voters, those were, that many signatures should have been validated or not validated. The other thing that I also found is that James Durrance, that worked in that office, had contacted me after I had posted that problem that I had. It was over 120 days since I had submitted my petition. At that time, there was supposed to be a supervisor that was supervising these young ladies that were going to count these signatures or validate these signatures. The two young ladies that were there were both just fresh out of high school, Lindsay Edge and a Brianna Lowe. And there was supposed to be a supervisor. At that time, there was no supervisor. Her name was Leah Hughes. She was actually on medical leave. So the petition wasn't counted by anybody that in my vision of this, that would have been able to validate a signature, whether it's correct or it's not correct. It wasn't validated by a supervisor. It was given to Vanessa Cunningham, which she was in charge of the voting and elections and stuff that was going on at that time in Ludowici. My reference to James Durrance is, had called me on the phone after he had quit working with Long County and had moved away. He said those signatures were counted within that time period, and Vanessa Cunningham had retained those on her desk for a time period. I don't have anything other than just him verbalizing that to me on the phone, but I did go down to the office yesterday and speak with these, let me get her name here, I apologize. There was a young lady that was working yesterday, and I can't remember what her name is at this time, but she was the one that had provided me the information about who had counted and not counted. Long County has had some issues in the past about voting and scenarios like this. All I'm trying to do is bring revenue and jobs to my community, and I was met with the full force of Long County and how they do business there. I've had police harassment. They shut my business down. They sold an alleyway that was connected to my business, and I've been in a heck of a struggle for 2 years trying to just get the people of Ludowici to have the right to vote for the things that and I had the signatures, and there's people that want liquor in the community. It's not so much the liquor, it's about the revenue. We have no jobs in our community. Our tax bases are raising every year. School buses don't have enough space for our kids. I'm a business. I can bring them $100,000 of tax revenue. I can bring tax revenue to the state, and it's being pushed away because it's not either somebody's idea, or they can't get their hands on the financial side of it. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Tucker? Okay, thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harvey, do we have any complaints in regards to the city and the claims that Mr. Tucker was making?
If you notice the agenda, there are several cases with Long County on here. Long County does have some issues, and we'll talk about in later cases with some elections office. The key point in this case is that the petitions he turned in weren't legally sufficient. They weren't certified. So he may have had a proper number, but the petitions on their face were invalid, because as we've had petition cases before, they have to be notarized by a circulator, and that wasn't done in this case. And I think that's the basis for the invalidation.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Mr. Tucker, you want to address that?
Yes, sir. The information I was not provided with the proper information from my county. They held that information from me. The first petition I had done, I went onto the Nexus Lexus website, and it said in there what information I was supposed to provide. On the second petition, the first petition, this county wouldn't even allow me to have my the right to the voters registration list of our community that is public information. So, and in all reality here, sir, the information is not provided to me, so therefore I couldn't provide to them what their requirement was,
Well,
so.
we understand that, but that still doesn't, you know, just because that was the case, we can't
Yes, sir.
legally accept
The
this.
second petition, though, I followed the guidelines that were provided to me by the county with the voter registration list that they had piecemeal to me to push me past this election process for the city. It's supposed to be counted within 30 days. It was 120 days later when I was going to a city council meeting asking, where is this petition and where are my signatures?
So, Mr. Harvey, have you seen the second petition too?
I don't know if we've got the second petition, but my understanding is that neither of the petitions were certified. The way the circulator who circulated petitions signed the petitions as having circulated. I can check the file to see if they're in there. I don't know, the investigator,
Well-
Investigator Archie, do you want to speak to that? Investigator Archie handled the case. He may.
Mr. Tucker, if you don't mind, just step aside one
Yes, sir.
second. And, Glenn, just give us your name and address.
Investigator Glenn Archie with the Secretary of State's office, it's 237 Coliseum Drive, Macon, Georgia, 31217. Pretty much in reference to the second petition, that is, I believe, part of the record. They were not notarized by the circulators. And also, when I went through the number of signatures, just give you all a brief about that. There was 582 signatures. 84 signatures were verified.
What was that number again?
582 signatures.
Okay, and then what was the second number?
84 signatures were verified. 37 signatures were non-verifiable signatures. 155 signatures were voters that were registered, but they lived in the county. And 315 signatures were classified as other. So I also checked those, of course. 206 signatures for citizens that were not registered to vote out of that number. 58 signatures were not legible. 11 signatures were electors that resided in the city of Little Whiskey. And 25 signatures were electors that were registered to vote, but they resided also in Long County.
Any questions for Investigator Archie from the board? Right.
And Mr. Secretary Kemp, Mr. Willard has informed me this is actually would be even if this were an issue, it would be a Title III, not a Title 21 case. So I don't believe we have jurisdiction.
Mr. Mr. Willard, do you want to explain that to Mr. Tucker, just so he knows what we're talking about here?
Yes, Mr. Tucker, the State Election Board has jurisdiction to consider violations of Chapter 2 of Title 21. The procedure for referendum or petition to get a referendum on the ballot for alcohol is found in Title 3. It's OCGA 3-4-41. This board doesn't have jurisdiction to consider violations of Title 3, the same as the board in the past has realized that it doesn't have violations to consider, or it doesn't have authority to consider violations of Chapter 4 of Title 21, which relates to recall petitions. We just don't have jurisdiction, or the board doesn't have jurisdiction to consider those violations. The General Assembly has not empowered this board to consider violations of the petition to get an alcohol referendum on the ballot, because they place that in Title 3 and haven't given this board authority to consider violations of Title 3.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Willard. So if Mr. Tucker wanted to file a complaint for some of the allegations that he's alleging, would he want to do that to us or another entity, or do you have any advice for him on that?
Well, I can't give Mr. Tucker advice. I can try to answer your question without having researched it in depth. I would say that the recourse for an elector who believes that they have complied with 3-4-41 would be to file a mandamus petition seeking a court order directing the local officials to comply with the Title III provision.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tucker, I know that's a lot of legal.
I'm following, sir.
Legal jargon there, but
about that.
hopefully, while Mr. Willard is correct, we can't give you legal advice. Hopefully that will send you in the right direction should you want to continue to pursue this. Do you understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
Did you have anything else for the board?
No, sir.
Okay, anyone else? you would, just give us your name and address for the record. Mr. Tucker, you can.
Cindy McClellan, I work with the city.
Hold on one second, could you say that one more time?
Cindy McClellan,
Can you give us your address, Mr. McClellan?
it's 380 South Main Street, Ludowici, Georgia.
Okay.
I work with the city of Ludowici, and as you know, all records are kept with the county, so we have to rely on the county to verify the signatures on the petition. But once he filed the petition for the referendum, or, we forwarded on to the chairman of the board of elections with the county, with Long County. And, we followed the procedure as far as, forwarding it to them.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. McClellan? All right, no questions. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, Mr. Harvey, do you want to give us a recommendation again, just to make sure the board understands?
I recommend that this case be dismissed by the state election board.
Okay. Any other comments from the board, or do we have a motion?
So moved.
You move to dismiss?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Simpson moves to dismiss. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and we have dismissed that case. Thank you both for being here this morning.
Thanks, sir.
All right, we'll now move to SEB case number 2013, number 68, which is number 17 in the binder. Mr. Harvey.
This case, City of Atlanta, allegations of vote buying. It was reported that in a high-rise residential facility prior to the election, there were flyers posted by the staff where people could sign up or were being notified of rides to the polls. And with those notices of rides to the polls, there were names of candidates, and to the side or on the same advertisement, there were, so you have candidate X, and then there would be a gift card next to that person's name, and the next candidate and the gift card next to their name. What our investigation revealed was that in talking to the people who put up those notices, they were offering people rides to the polls regardless of who they were planning on voting for or how they were planning on voting. The reason they put the gift cards next to the candidates' names was because those candidates had come to those facilities previously and had provided gift cards, and the people putting up the advertisements wanted people to associate the candidates with their previous visits and what they had provided to the facility. The awarding of any gift cards had been done prior to the campaign or the election, and so I didn't see it as a violation of offering something in exchange for voting. And so we didn't find a violation there. The main purpose was to advertise rides to the polls. The candidates were listed with things that had been associated with previous visits to the facility.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Mr. Worley.
Mr. Harvey, the reason that I wanted to talk about this case in particular is that the report didn't indicate the name of the complaining party, and generally the reports do. I wanted to know that information because in order to determine whether I or other members of the board should recuse themselves in a particular case, we need to know the names of the parties. So that was one issue. The other issue, I was interested in seeing the actual flyer that you had.
Well, to the first issue, on the report, the complainant is listed. Maybe not on the summary, but on it is on my copy.
Doesn't
Says
appear
a
to be
resident.
on ours. It just says a resident of the address.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right.
If you give me 1 second, I'll let you know whether or not we have a copy. I don't know.
It's there.
Right. And Right, the name, but the copy.
The copy of the flyer.
Right, let me see if we have that.
Mr. Harvey, while you're looking for that, I'm gonna see if anyone else wishes to speak on this matter. Let's move in here, okay?
Yes, sir, I do have a copy.
All right, Mr. Worley, anything? Mr. Harvey, so just to think about this, the gift cards were given to the facility, not the individuals in the facility.
Well, it's unclear exactly what was, who was given it or what they were given to, if they were given to individuals. The key point was that they had been given sometime during the previous year, whether they had been given to the facility to distribute to individuals or individuals. There was no evidence or no indication that there was any type of condition when the gift cards were given prior to the election. And
Were both the candidates on the flyer in the runoff against each other?
I know they were both candidates.
Mr. Worley says no.
I don't believe so. I believe one was running in the district and the other was running in Warren.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Simpson.
Do we know whether or not those gift cards were given before or after the candidates qualified for the election?
My I don't know that I can say absolutely when they were given.
Seems like to me that that would make a difference.
Yes, sir.
If the person gave the card knowing they were running, and
It
then
says,
and then had it put on the flyer,
yes, sir.
that's obviously a gift to encourage people to vote for them. But if they had not qualified and didn't know they were going to run, and they just gave the gift card, that'd be an entirely different matter in my mind.
Yes, sir, I agree. What happened, those candidates had given gift cards to the facility to be used as prizes in events that had happened earlier in the year. So whether it had taken place before or after qualifying, I don't know, but they had not been given to individuals. They had been given to the facility, so if the facility had something like a bingo game or something like that, the winner would win a gift card.
What's the difference in me giving Mr. Worley a card and him giving it to you, or me just giving it directly to you, in terms of the intent and why it's given, and whether or not that might bear on how somebody voted?
Well, I suppose you could make an argument that if somebody's giving something to an entity to distribute to somebody that they can't control, the candidate can't control who gets that gift card. So they're giving it to a facility who's then using it as a prize for something like a bingo game. The candidate is not giving it to somebody in exchange for a vote. Again, I understand your point, and you or the board may have a different understanding, and that's why I'm presenting it in this way. But I don't see a connection, don't see a direct connection between the giving of a gift card and voting.
I think in your example, Simpson, there is a nexus, in effect, you're making Mr. Worley your bagman to carry out your wishes.
He makes a good bag.
Right. And in this, granted, there's a slight nuance there, but it would be similar to a candidate who buys an ad in a charitable program or contributes to a gift that's going to be raffled off. They're giving something of value, but it's to the organization. They have no control over it. In this sort of example, theoretically, you might have the residents who didn't win bingo upset that the candidate didn't get more cards, or there's not necessarily a nexus between candidate handing the gift card to the committee that's going to award the bingo prizes and actually getting a vote on their behalf.
I don't agree, but I certainly understand.
Well, and I understand, but I'll take a look at 570, which is the vote buying provision, and there may be some, for lack of a better, some gray area activity on the part of the board, but I don't think, unless there was a quid pro quo, that it doesn't appear that we have evidence of, that the candidate, when he gave them the gift card, the association said, we'll make sure that you're recognized and everybody knows. At that point, the candidate hasn't done anything wrong, at least under the way 570 is worded.
Just doesn't smell right.
I understand, that may be, I think the secretary has some legislation pending, that may be something to clean up.
All right, anything else from the board? All right, let me just make sure no one else was here to speak on this case. Okay. All right, well, we had a recommendation originally from Ms. Harvey to dismiss. Board members can certainly make a motion in their purview. We can always table this and ask Mr. Harvey to see if we can get one of our folks to go back and find out exactly when the gift cards were given. That would make y'all feel better.
I'd make a motion to dismiss the case.
All right, Mr. Worley moves to dismiss. Do we have a second? I'll second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of dismissing signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
All right, that motion carries. We are dismissed. Case number 2013-68. Okay, Mr. Harvey, case number 2014, number 17, which is the Clayton County primary case, which is number 21 in our binder.
Yes, sir. This case involved the Clayton County primary in May of 2014. The complainant was a Mr. Jeffrey Benoit, who complained that there were some voters that were improperly districted and/or got the wrong ballot in the election. There was another complaint that somebody was not allowed to view tabulation. We did an investigation in coordination with the Clayton County Elections Office and determined that the voters who allegedly got the wrong ballots were in the proper district, and all the evidence appears to be that they got the ballot that they were entitled to. As far as the inability to view the tabulation, we found no evidence that there was a violation of State Election Board rules or law, and recommend that this case be dismissed.
Okay, any questions from the board for Mr. Harvey? All right, seeing none, anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jeffrey Benoit. The information you just
If
presented.
you just speak to her right there where she can hear you.
The information you just now received.
Sorry, name and address.
Jeffrey Benoit, 5783 Rexmill Drive, Clayton County. The information you just received is incorrect. I have statements from the family, the Bedingfields, husband, wife, daughter, living at the same address. It's a good idea, it's a good suggestion. They may have been living together all their life. The husband got a ballot with my name on it, candidate for District 8. The wife, the daughter, got a ballot with District 9 candidate on it. District 9, you're not familiar, I can't recall the candidate for District 9. This is the same family living in the same house at the same address, gets 2 different ballots in the same house. I don't care how they ran their districting line, you cannot run it through the house, you can't run it through the bedroom, you can't run it through the bathroom, that the wife is in District 8 and the husband's in District 9. That's impossible. It's impossible. So what we're saying here is that this is a systemic problem that's going on in Clayton County, that has been going on in Clayton County, and all too often, we don't talk about who we voted for, so you probably would never know this. But this was a family that is generally voted Republican. But they live in my district, and we have a very good relationship. They chose to vote Democratic because they see the systemic problems in our school board, and they wanted to see it change. They changed from Republican to Democrat to vote for me, which they called me and told me, and if you give me a few minutes, I can find the email, make sure I say the voicemail that the wife sent and said, I feel like my vote has been stolen from me from Clayton County because my husband had you on his ballot, my wife, or myself, and my daughter had the other candidate, and we live in the same house. How does that happen? Now, not only was that part of the problem, Janice Scott in 2012 brought the issue to Ms. Wright about getting the wrong ballots. She got no response from that, and they dismissed it as a fallacy of dramatic instance. Well, here again in 2010, Mr. Jones, who ran the school board, got the same problem. And these issues have been brought to Mr. Harvey. And for whatever reason that they're not being brought up in this situation, I don't know. But the facts remain that in Clayton County, there's been a systemic problem as it applies to voting, as it applies to applying the right ballots in the right home, or to get the right districts on the individuals who know where they might vote for. I asked the question, do you know where you live, or do you know your address? There are 2 different things. Your address is where you get your mail, your district is where you vote, and who you vote for, and who the candidates are in that district that you vote for. And all too many times, people don't know where they live, they just know their address. And so we have to do a better job of letting people know where they live by giving them new voter registration cards when we redraw the line, so they know who they're voting for and who should be on their ballot. And I really would ask that the board push this issue. The Clayton County School Board is having a special election because they're trying to fill a absentee for a board member who did the right thing and resigned. I would ask that this board would see fit to put this back on that particular board to have another special election because this issue is systemic. And again, I did talk to Mr. Harvey about this. I did send him this information, and he does have this information. For what reason that this should be dismissed, that's simply saying that voter fraud, no matter what the issue is okay in this country. And we're not going to address the issues no matter how much information we have. So I say to the board, this is a systemic problem. I've come to address this problem. Not that I'm hurt, I'm fine. But our kids are hurting. Our communities are hurting. The economics of our community as opposed to a bad school board, and this bad school board policy is hurting our community. And if we don't address this issue, then we might as well just go ahead and close up shop.
All right, thank you, Mr. Benoit. Any questions from the board for him? All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Ward.
I have a question. The statements that you have from the betting fields, have those been provided to Mr.
Yes, we do, and I have a copy right here. I also have Ms. Bedingfield on a very frantic voicemail that I've been keeping since 2014. If you give me a few minutes, I can pull that out for you to hear it.
That's not necessary for you to hear.
And I'd like to ask the board, how do someone go about submitting to get on this board of elections that they might be able to serve their community at your level to be able to speak on these issues? I'd be very interested in that.
We can follow up with you on that. All right, anyone else wishing to speak on this matter?
I do.
Ms. Wright. Welcome back to me.
Thank you. Good morning, board. My name is Annie Bright. I'm the Director of Elections and Registration in Clayton County. My address is 11985 Scottish Court, Fairview, Georgia. In regards to Mr. Benoit's complaint, the Betterfields are in School Board District 9. According to our records, our GIS maps, our school board maps, they are registered to vote in School Board District 9. They've always been registered to vote in School Board District 9. According to Mr. Benoit, the Betterfields Mr. Benoit brought the Betterfields into my office on May 16th, actually May 22nd, claiming that they had voted on May 16th at the Carl Rodines Recreation Center. According to Mr. Benoit, Mr. Bedingfield claimed that he got a ballot for School Board District 8, which is Mr. Benoit's district. And Mrs. Bedingfield and her daughter got a ballot for School Board District 9. Well, we did not have any calls on May 16th from any of the Bedingfields stating that they had gotten the wrong ballot. We only found, well, they came into our office allegedly that the husband had gotten one ballot and the wife and daughter had gotten another ballot. And we took the Bedingfields to the map to show them what school board district they were in and show them that they were in School Board District 9 and they had received, according to us, the right ballot. So I don't know, all this allegedly, you know, from the Bedingfield, well, from Mr. Benoit regarding the Bedingfield and our ballot. So according to our records, everything that we have says that they are in School Board District 9.
All right,
And that's the ballot that they received when they voted early.
Any questions for Mr. Wright from the board?
I'd like to submit,
All right, just hold on one second. Okay, thank you for being here this morning. All right, Mr. Harvey,
Sir,
do you have anything else that you want to add about anything anybody's said that can continue to enlighten the board?
just to reiterate that our investigation revealed, what Ms. Wright revealed, that they were in the proper district and all records indicate they got the proper ballot. I know that this board has seen cases before where individuals claim somebody was or wasn't on a ballot. My experience has been that if that's a large systemic problem, it's going to affect more than one person. And the board has seen many cases where, you know, multiple people have gotten the wrong ballot in the wrong precinct. In the absence of any other complaints, and with the system backing it up, I'm personally inclined to believe that maybe Mr. Bedingfield overlooked something, or I can't explain it definitively, but I just don't see any evidence that would show that that they got the wrong ballot, or that they're in any improper district, and therefore that Clayton County did anything improper.
I submit this as a certified document that they said that they.
Just hold on one second, we'll give you opportunity. We got to do this in an orderly way so the person keeping the transcripts knows who's talking and when. Ms. Bright, did you have anything else? you
Yes,
wanted to add?
additionally, Chairman and Board, in all of our precincts, in all of our voting machines, inside the voting machine as well as above the voting machine, there are signs that's provided by the Secretary of State's office stating that if you feel that you have received a wrong ballot, you need to notify the poll manager to let them know. So if one of the Bedingfields did receive the wrong ballot, or thought that they were in the wrong district, they should have notified the poll workers. Like I said, this notification, Mr. Benoit brought this into our office with the Bedingfield 6 days after they had voted the ballot.
Okay, Mr. Simpson.
There will be a different precinct location to vote in District 8 or District 9, will there not?
But for that precinct is split. So there's a possibility to modify, that's modified voting precinct. So you would have some people that would be voting in District 8 and some people that would be voting in District 9.
So you couldn't tell by geographically where they went to vote as to whether or not they voted in the correct.
On the map, the precinct is the same precinct for School Board District 8 and in District 9. So they will be at the same voting precinct. Except in this case, these individuals voted at one of the advanced voting sites, which, you know, anyone can go to, which is, anybody in the county can go and vote when they're voting there.
Any other questions? Mr. Wright.
Mr. Chairman, I have just one.
Mr. Wood.
Based on your testimony, I believe, just to clarify, the Bedingfield should not have had Mr. Benoit on their ballot, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They are in the School Board District 9, and the candidate for them was Charlton Bivens.
Right. And Mr. Benoit was in District 8.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
To the microphone that we're trying to fix. Yeah.
Two points here. One, the Bedingfield signed a certified document. Mr. Bedingfield, Mrs. Bedingfield, and the daughter, indicating that they got one with my name on it, one with Mr. Bivens. A certified document is something that I would think there would be somewhat of evidence to say that they are not embellishing this or that they're doing this for any other reason other than the fact that they felt that their votes were squandered in this particular process. And I think Mr. Harvey has this. I sent this to you as well.
We can accept that document if you want.
I'd like to get a copy of this, but I only brought one, because I know I've already sent a copy
If
of it.
you want to, we can look at it and we'll give it back to you. We have a motion to accept the document.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to accept the document. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, the motion carries.
And the second thing, that Ms. Wright made a that if you should get an incorrect ballot, that they should notify the poll worker or notify something. Here I have a document here from Ms. Janice Scott, who notified Ms. Bright 3 times herself about the incorrect ballots that she's got, and got absolutely no response from her personally as to this. And I submit this to you as well, and he has a copy of this as well.
All right, let me ask you a question about that. So is that the same election?
No, sir, this election was 2012, and then I have another from 2010. So it's been going 2010, 2012, 2014. And all these documents have been submitted to Mr. Harvey. And these are 3 different candidates that ran at 3 different times, myself, Janice Scott, and Mr. Jones.
Do we want to accept those documents?
And I'd ask that the board consider putting
All
a
right, we
special
have-
election on this upcoming election for District 8 and District 9 for a school board representative.
All right, well, I don't think we're gonna need those documents because they're relating to a whole separate election. Is there
It
any-
just goes to speak to the fact that where they do make these comments, they're getting absolutely no
Well, your
results.
remarks are on the record and the board certainly knows your position. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I'd like to add that the board can strongly consider putting District 8 on the special election board that they're going to be running in Clayton County to fill the seat for District 9.
Well, we appreciate your advice, but I don't think we have the authority to decide when county elections will be. All right, are there any questions for, any other questions for Mr. Benoit? Thank you very much. Benoit, we're gonna get you a copy of that, or we're gonna get a copy for us to keep. We'll give you that back. All right, anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Mr. Harvey, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, sir. It's certainly not unheard of to have cases where somebody gets an incorrect ballot. In this case, the records seem to indicate that they would have gotten the right ballot. And I just don't know that there's enough to justify a citation in this case. Certainly leave it to the discretion of the board.
Have you talked to the Bentonvilles?
The investigator did, yes, sir. I personally have not. I've spoken with Mr. Benoit several times.
Okay.
They were going to come this morning, but due to some other issues, they couldn't be here, but they definitely wanted to be here this morning.
All right. Hearing no one else wishing to speak, I'll be glad to take a motion.
Before we do that, could I ask Mr. Harvey a question?
Absolutely. Mr. Worth.
Mr. Harvey, ordinarily, when there's a dispute over the facts in a case, one party says one thing and another party says another, we refer it on to the Attorney General's office for the review. But in this case, is there any other evidence that could be found other than what we've heard today?
I think there's not. I mean, I think the state of the evidence is as it is, and it sounds like we got the microphones working. And I understand, and that's generally my practice, is if there's a dispute in the evidence to do that. I think in these cases, in order, I try to, consider all the other circumstances, and there's certainly been plenty of cases where, City of Atlanta and Fulton County have had cases where precincts have wholesale problems with people getting the wrong ballots. And I just don't know that there's much for Mr. Willard to do with it if it were to be bound over. But certainly, that's why we're here, so that you all can consider that. But I don't think there's any additional evidence that can be gained.
And to my recollection, we have not had, unlike, say, Fulton County, we have not had a history of problems on this kind of issue in Clayton County.
That's correct. Again, you get odd cases in different precincts in different counties, even in counties that normally have pretty stellar records, where occasionally there will be an individual mistake. But no, Clayton County does not historically have an issue with this kind of problem.
All right, any other? All right, Mr. Benoit, I'm giving you a lot of leniency. This is the last time you need to close out right here. You're fixing to move on.
I appreciate the leniency and the reason for it, because I'm very passionate about the folks in our county. And if we do not do anything about it, and we pass this off as a passive issue, then we never will correct it. We never will address it. Yes, there is evidence. Yes, there is a reason to investigate it. And I'd ask that it be investigated, that we get
Quitman, Georgia. George Boston Ryans, and once again, the Quitman 10+2 Lula Smart once again will be facing a judge and jury. I just came out of the courtroom. This is the second day of these proceedings. They are still trying to select the jury. C.V. King has some very interesting questions to ask, and we just want to say to you that we are very happy to be here. I thank God for us being under this type of government wherein we can ask and be in the courtroom with the video cameras. I made my request, and they are in.
understood he was gonna, told me yesterday he was gonna audio tape it. Is that still your plan, sir?
No, sir. Once we were standing there, I said video.
That being the case, the court is not gonna allow a video camera because there are other persons charged in similar situations. And because of that, in order to preserve the jury to be for their potential cases, there's case law in Georgia that the courts have that authority, that this court has a duty to a fair trial and a public trial, not only to Ms. Smart, but to any other person who is charged on these facts. So in order to preserve the jury room in Brooks County, the court will not allow videotaping or audio taping of the proceedings. So you take the camera down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's strictly to the
How you doing today?
Very well.
Good. What's your name?
My name's Kevin Moran.
Kevin Moran. Where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a member of Dr. Joseph E. Lowery's Coalition for the People's Agenda. I've been coming down here for the last 4 years, familiarizing myself with this case against these 11 women and 1 man of the very apparent injustice of this matter. This has been orchestrated from the highest levels of this state. The Secretary of State has a vendetta against these upstanding citizens and is trying to suppress the African American vote, not only here in Quitman, Brooks County, but across the entire southern band of counties in Georgia. The women of the Quitman 10 were very successful in using a strategy that the Republican Party has used very successfully, of using the absentee ballot to increase participation in the process. That's what we all want is in this democracy, is for participation in the process by informed voters. This has been successfully done repeatedly here in Brooks County. These women didn't win just one election. They didn't win just one primary. They have been reelected and reelected by large majorities in every case similar to the initial election. Today, at the end of the day, on a Friday, here in the courtroom,
Yes, sir.
after being here all week, our attorney, Attorney King, had the opportunity to cross-examine the star witness of the prosecution, Mr. Boone of the United States Post Office. Mr. Boone testified that he had collected the names of and written the names of individuals that mailed in an absentee ballot. This is in violation of his charge and his oath as an officer of the United States Postal Service. I don't want my postman going through my mail and recording who I'm getting mail from. I don't expect my mailman to be recording who I'm sending my Christmas cards to. This This is a free country. This is the United States of America. We don't spy on each other in this country. But what he was doing doesn't hold up to the light of day. He presented a list that he swore to of 15 names that he swore put in post office collection box all at the same time. And he swore by one person. Well, very interestingly, upon cross-examination, it was shown in black and white on the return envelope for absentee ballots that one was sent in with a date of July 5th, 2010, and one on a date of July 15th. He had previously testified that every ballot that came in was immediately stamped that day by the local Quitman post office and expeditiously delivered to the registrar of voters here in Brooks County. There were 10 days between the receipt of these two envelopes that he had sworn he recorded on the same day at the same time being deposited by the same person. As the defense attorney said, that is a lie. It was proven to the jury, the judge, and all in the courtroom. These postmarked return envelopes showed the dates of July 5 and July 10, respectively. Those aren't recorded on the same day. Beyond this, that opened a can of worms that the defense attorney has exposed, that the prosecution does not have. Of those 15 ballots, they have but 2 of the originals. The other 12 are missing. They are unable to produce them. They brought out all the materials they contend that the prosecution has. Put the boxes out, let the defense attorneys go through them. That's all we have, and these documents are not in there. The original documents that he is making these salacious charges on are non-existent. The chief case agent of the G.B.R. testified that she picked up many, many boxes from the election office here in Brooks County.
Ms. Braswell.
That is correct. Ms. Braswell testified. She also testified as an agent of the G.B.I. that she turned over every bit, all of that material to the prosecution. All that's remaining today are what look to me like 3-4 small boxes of some evidence, pieces of paper. The prosecutor is even admitting that they probably won't be able to find the originals. The judge has ordered them to produce the originals by the convening of court, on this case the next day on Tuesday. It is highly unlikely after all this. They have looked before. They will not find originals. They know they are not producible. Why do originals that are being used to tarnish the reputation and exposed to convictions of innocent people, why does that evidence suddenly totally disappear? And beyond that, the list that the registrar would have of individuals applying for these absentee ballots has disappeared. There is no record that these individuals, who the postal employee claims all mailed in their ballot on the same day, came in the same stack at the identical time. They never show on the records of having received a ballot. The ballots are dated by the post office itself 10 days apart. This is a miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked. The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished. The Governor, the Secretary of State are trying to intimidate and suppress the African American vote since they know if the 400,000 registered African Americans in the state of Georgia that did not vote in the last election cycle come out and exercise a right that people have died for, the right to vote. If the African American community and all people of color exercise their constitutional right to vote, it will mean the demise of this white privileged aristocracy here in Georgia. That is not American. That is not worthy of the state of Georgia. This prosecution is a travesty. The prosecutors, the Secretary of State, the Governor should be called out on what they have done to these women and called to publicly apologize for the 4 years that they have put them under this scrutiny and this character assassination. So that's how I feel about today.
Thank you very much. This is the Ghetto Free Press, just keeping it real. Once again, I want to appreciate you. You are a prime example, in my most humble opinion. While we cannot hate one another because of the skin color, it's not about skin color. It's about what is right and wrong. I think perhaps that Jesus put it best, and I put it in my own words. Want for your neighbor that which you want and have for yourself and your own children. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
This is the Ghetto Free Press. I'm George Foster. What do you think will happen here today? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jody Williams with the People's Agenda Criminal Justice Committee. And we're here at the Brooks County Courthouse where the Quitman 10+2 has selected their jury. And the attorney, they wanted to charge him with the vaccines. And what that is when you select your jury based on race. But this is the third trial. So the first trial, they only had 1 black and 11 whites. The second trial, they had 2 blacks and 10 whites. And today, they selected 6 blacks and 6 white, and they had a problem with that. And that was something they couldn't understand, and I don't understand either.
How did you get here, first of all? Who told you about this, or what the thrust of your purpose in coming here today?
Well, I'm with the People's Agenda, so we've been following this since the beginning, since Tyrone Brooks decided that this was something that the public should know about, and the treatment of the Quitman 10 was unjust.
You also was informing me in the courtroom your opinion, and so I've been following Representative Tyrone Brooks, and some people seem to believe that a lot of his troubles started with the Morris Ford Bridge. I guess you have a kind of different on that?
I have a different opinion because from observing the Morris Ford Bridge and the Quitman 10, all his troubles were started when he pointed out that the governor had signed off on the indictment of the Quitman 10+2.
Okay, also, you talked to someone in Atlanta with the People's Agenda that told you to look for an individual who that individual you was looking for?
This gentleman right here.
George Boston Ryan. Yeah, and what's her name?
Her name is Miss Minnie.
Yes.
Miss Minnie Ruffin.
And the reason I asked you that, with all due respect, and honor, is because she has been here several times, and I just didn't want to not mention her name. She is a pioneer, and as you heard me say earlier inside, and that is that we men folk seem like black in our community, look like you all are out in the forefront. I want to commend you for coming down. Will you stick around? You said you're not sure if you're going to stick around.
I may not stick around today, but I will be back tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
That's about it, and I'd like to thank Representative Tyrone Brooks for bringing this to the public so that we can take part in this and make sure that justice is served.
Okay. Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press. George Boston Ryan. Bye-bye. We're gone. Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Ryans. And what's your name once again, my beautiful brother?
George, my name is Kevin Moran.
All right. And you're with the People's Agenda.
I'm with the Coalition of the People's Agenda, convened by Dr. Joseph E. Lowry.
All right. I want to ask you a few questions. Number one, I've been here. I missed Monday because I was up there with the newly elected black Mayor Ann Whipple-Lue, who's being mistreated, and I believe it all interrelated together.
Yes.
But I got here Tuesday, and I didn't see any news media here Tuesday. I didn't see any Wednesday. I didn't see any Thursday, and I didn't see any today. I didn't even see any of the news reporters. I haven't seen anything in the Valdosta Daily Times, a metropolitan city. I only saw a little snippet in the Quitman Free Press yesterday when I got that in my mailbox because I subscribed to the paper. But the question is, how do you think that the news media like CNN, MSNBC, even with Al Sharpton, can ignore or omit what is happening here in Brooks County, where we had hundreds of people to march here because this is a very, very high-profile case. Why do you think that the news media are not concerned about voting rights down here in South Georgia? Apparently because they're not here.
The mass media that you refer to is totally owned and operated by the white aristocracy of Georgia. And it is an inconvenient truth that Quitman 10 plus 12 have been salaciously charged.
10 plus 2.
10 plus 2 with charges for crimes they did not commit, and it was proven today in court.
Okay. Another thing I want to ask you is that if you had not spoken out a little bit about what happened here today, I say that this information that took place in the courtroom outside of the transcript, which will be a matter of record for all eternity, I guess, but without that, the local citizens here in Quitman and Brooks County and all around South Georgia, they wouldn't know anything about it, because when the newspapers are written, which I call the archival record, when they read that in 30, 40 years in the schools require these students to do turn papers on the events of yesterday, they won't be able to retrieve that from the newspaper because it wasn't there.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think that's why it is essential that this word get out. And I've been fortunate 4 years ago, when you mentioned hundreds of us gathered here on the steps, to be traveling with an international representative of the Mennonite Church, who I contacted last night that this trial is still going on. He has learned the truth, and he is ashamed that the United States judicial system here in Quitman, Georgia, is lynching these 10 plus 2 for acts they never committed, and by the media intentionally, I really believe it is intentionally not being here.
Yes, sir.
It is an inconvenient truth what has been done here. For 4 years, these women and one man have been subjected to daily harangues, allegations by the GBI, put in jail because they won an election. They won an election to office that had previously been held by white males. And for the first time, we had African Americans of impeccable character and wonderful qualifications as educators elected to the school board. They've been elected 2 times since by the same plurality. This was not a fluke. This was not a manipulated election. This, unfortunately, for some, is the South of the future. Georgia will become a majority state of colored people. Our brothers and sisters in Christ will be represented. This is a democracy in the United States. We have fought for it. We are entitled to our rights of equality under the law.
Today, August 12th, 2014, this postal carrier is dumping official mail in the dumpster. This reminds me of the Quitman 10+2 and Mr. Boone as he took information off of personal mail and gave it to a private investigator at the request of a former Brooks County school attorney. Yet the Postmaster General has done nothing to correct what Mr. Boone allegedly done that was brought out in Lula Smart court case over in Quitman, Georgia. Now, listen and see what happens when the Postmaster General ignore these people. Undoubtedly, this type of practice is spreading across the nation, and to hear Mr. Boone, an 18-year employee with the Postal Service, had never heard of something as simple as the Privacy Act. And yet, he took official ballots, yet they prosecute the Quitman 10, yet what happens? Watch, and you'll see what is going on in our world.
In they go, letters, bills, paychecks for people in Bond Hill. But this mail carrier isn't done yet. A second box of mail dumped in the trash.
Me, my stepmom lives here, she's missing mail. My sister, some of my friends that live here is missing mail.
Alicia Carr and her neighbors a block away noticed they didn't get mail. We showed her this video.
If the Postmaster General ignores what happens in Brooks County, and nothing happens to people who started the investigation of the Quitman 10+2, then you understand what is happening in our world.
Looks like she is putting deodorant on.
She's dumping bags of mail into the dumpster on the other side of Paddock.
Wow.
Back on Paddock, the people who caught this all on camera say the post office came back and got it out after they called and complained.
I'm a little saddened by it because you rely on the postal system. And now they failed you.
The female carrier in this video wasn't back today. The carrier we saw in this neighborhood tells us he was just filling in. He wasn't filling up this dumpster.
The hope is that we receive our mail today.
Well, as it is, That's the way it is, my brothers and sisters. Yet, nobody was saying it. And wait a minute, I haven't finished yet. Think about this. Can you imagine the registrar taking absentee ballots home to work on them? Can you imagine that? Not in Russia, not in Afghanistan, not in Pakistan, but right here in the United States of America. Yeah, and do you not know that nothing was done about it? And you talking about 2010? And yet, Lula Smart, on August the 19th, will be going back to the courthouse to be tried for alleged voter fraud, which we don't believe anything occurred except those workers gave Brooks County the first majority blacks, the first majority black Board of Education in the history of that county. That's all. David Miller, Assistant District Attorney, let me slow it down. District Attorney David Miller and Assistant District Attorney Brad Shealy and others we believe had ulterior motives in getting these people arrested, and after nearly 4 years have not been to court or found guilty of anything. Lula Smart, first trial was a mistrial. Her second trial was a mistrial. Her third trial will be August the 19th, and now they have added Dr. Nancy Dennett, one of the most outstanding and prestigious blacks in Brooks County. And yet, we hear nothing from the Postmaster General, nothing from the Secretary of State about what has happened. You know, it's a shame, but once again, we are going to find out what a real democracy looks like. This is George Foster Ryan with the Ghetto Free Press. We'll be giving you more on this. Yep, Don't you think that's strange? That a postal service worker, after 18 years, would not even know anything or say he even heard of something as simple as a Privacy Act. And he stated that on the stand in the Brooks County Courthouse. Then to have the registrar in Brooks County of the Board of Elections take official Georgia ballots home with her to process, then deputize people to work with her, including her granddaughter, and the question was asked while she was on the stand by Attorney Shaveen King. Was that job that you gave your granddaughter advertised so everybody would have a shot at it? And she said no. Well, I've said to you for the last 20 or 30 years now, Georgia definitely has its own set of rules and laws. And well, one day you're not concerned today. No, let me repeat. You're not concerned about it today. No, you're not concerned about it today. But just keep on living. And those same laws gonna make you the victim of circumstance. Then you'll get concerned. Then you'll call me and say, Brother Ryans, how do you know that, Brother Ryan? Because I already have people call me, and that's exactly what they say. They thought they was immune to being picked up or stopped on criminal trespass, and they have violated no law. Well, but then again, the word is not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Repeatedly, unanimous. This is the Ghetto Free Press. We are reporting what others ignore. The newspapers chose not to come, but we are here because we do believe that you have a right to know. And we are back in the courtroom. This is where it all took place. And once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press. And I want to thank the judge, C. Maxwell. They all are rejoicing. And of course, thank you for a job well done, Chair. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Yes. This is Judge Gary C. McCorvey, Secretary, Clerk of Court. Once again, this is not guilty. The people are rejoicing. And this is a beautiful day, and I believe that this is perhaps the best day of our democracy. And this is Judge Gary C. McCormick. I think he done a good job. I really do. Once again, we must thank Shaveen King. We must also thank Nancy Dennard for doing an outstanding job all the way. The NAACP has been here all the way. This is, of course, Lula Smart. All that she has been through. She violated no law. And if they had not stood their grounds, if they had plea bargained, we wouldn't have had this day. This case just may set a precedent here in Georgia and in the United States of America. This is a very high day, and we just hope that some conclusion can come to the other people that have been charged in what we believe was either a conspiracy or retaliation for Black African Americans dominating the Brooks County School Board of Education. This is the mother right here. And we want to thank, oh my God, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. That's Diane Thomas. She wanted to quit with 10 plus 2.
That's what I'm saying.
We're so thankful. So thankful. How you doing today? What do you want to say about it?
Oh, I just thank God. Thank God for this day that we've been waiting on for 5 weeks, 4 years. I just thank God that justice was done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We can see that this is a very high point. Look at the young lady here. She's rejoicing. Excuse me. Lula Smart.
It's a wonderful
You may not understand this, but you don't have to see when people are innocent is when they hear people lie on the stand. They say that she dropped ballots in a box. She said she didn't. She said that Amy Braswell, of the special agent of G.B.R, did not put the tape recorder on her desk as she testified under oath. Mr. Boone testified that she put bundles of ballots in the drop boxes outside of the post office. Apparently the jury just did not buy it. We also have the one pastor that has been all the way, hugging Diane Thomas. He marched with us. He protested with us. He cried with us. He wept with us. He wept with the Quitman team all the way. This is a high day, and what is most embarrassing? There's not one TV station, no news media, no newspaper, no radio station to record this historic event. This is what Black African Americans must go through. Not to mention Secretary of State ignoring public meetings wherein all of this was brought up. The rejoicing. She praising God because she is a Christian. She is nothing what they claim her to be. She just praising God. Listen. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Praise his holy name. He's worthy to be praised. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Praise his holy name. He's worthy to be praised. Thank you, Jesus. This is the Ghetto Free Press, and verdict on all charges against one of the Quitman 10 plus 2, Lula Smart. This 19 to 20 day case is now over. It went to the jury. The jury did what we thought they should do, and that is find Lula Smart not guilty. Once again, I must thank the judge, the Honorable Judge, Gary C. McCarvey. He denied me the right to record in the courtroom. However, when you consider that he didn't want to mess up the other cases, that's not a bad thing. The thing is that we want justice. We always wanted justice. We started out seeking justice, and we believe that justice has been received here in Quitman, Brooks County, in the state of Georgia, and in the United States of America. Once again, Maxwell, come just a minute. Once again, I've interviewed him, but said a few words before, but he seems so excited and willing to talk. What do you say today, my beautiful brother?
Boy, I tell you what I said, God is good.
God is good.
Boy, let me tell you something. And as I told my friend Luke, you understand, sometimes God has to be able to take you, that's right, and use you to make a change. And what he did, he took Miss Lula Smart, right, to make a change in Brooks County. That's right. And God has always been by her side. So the heaven is rejoicing now. That's right. Because God wanted the Brooks County people, you understand, to know that he is God.
Amen.
That's right. And he is in control. That's what happened. And said, what again? Let my people go.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It is just, praise the Lord. Praise him. Praise him. Praise him. Praise him.
Brother Max, he's the county commissioner. He's praising God.
What you talking about?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. This is in Quitman,
You
Georgia.
feel like that what you want to do is just want to dance. Just want to dance. Just want to dance. Just want to dance. Woo! Just want to dance. What you talking about? Good. So God is good. What you talking about? Woo!
Yes, sir. It's not on that one, but I don't think that we sit and get out of it. On the night of the election, on the night of the election.
This is Commissioner Maxwell, James Maxwell, who had a problem in his district. And he vehemently expressed his concerns not only here, but at the county commissioners meeting, and that I have recorded also. And so this is an elected official who talking about his election campaign. Listen, please.
The election supervisor was very unprofessional because I know I've been around for a long time. That's right. This is my 5th term, and I've never seen an election supervisor that will go out to the general audience, you understand, and declare, you understand, that we are going to have a runoff before the votes are in. And that's exactly what Mr. Ken Collins was doing. He was saying, well, I know, you understand, that we are going to have one runoff, and people just stunned, saying, well, how can he say that, you understand, when the votes are still coming in? Well, that's what happened. And when the votes, you understand that, and the district you were talking about was District 5. That's right. That was the district that we were having all the problems in. What happened? So he assured, you understand, that everyone that was at the strike, the election area that night, he was assuring them that in District 5 we will have a runoff. But when all the votes were counted, there was no runoff. What happened? And to me, you understand, he was very disappointed. But he's supposed to be bipartisan. He don't want to keep his mouth closed. And that's something he don't supposed to be walking around, out there, among the public and telling, you understand, the people who was running that we're going to have a runoff. That's right.
Although this was brought up to Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp, investigator Glenn Archer, the people in Brooks County have come back and asked me, why are they ignoring the problems in Brooks County? Yet they want to prosecute the Quitman 10+2. However, today we know that all charges have been dropped and they all been cleared after 4 years of turmoil and denying them of their constitutional rights. And I believe that all of this intimidation that you are seeing here was a direct result in Miss Trotman and Diane Thomas losing the last election. And this is why I think the governor of the state of Georgia or the federal government needs to step in and look into that last election, as well as everything that has transpired with the Quitman 10+2. because it is indeed a white spot on the history of the state of Georgia and our nation as a whole.
Something that he, shall not do. He cannot do. See, that's what he did. We can follow up on that too.